States, in Middle America, we haven't gotten past that yet.
No, we haven't. You're 100% right.
In maybe some of our larger cities along the seaboards, we've gotten better at it, but here in Middle America, we've not gotten past that yet. We do a really good job at hiding it and pretending and smiling and being nice, but it's a little...
And who knows if we ever will. You know, that's the sad thing. Who knows if we ever will.
Well, and that's the hope, right? Because if we can get past that, then we can get past all the rest of this stuff. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess my point is that our prejudices run deep, and there's no valid reason for them. There's just not.
Well, we can't even get beyond certain things, you know, and you know this because you've called up before and we've discussed it in Congress, between Democrat and Republican, and getting behind our president and doing what's right for the American people. You know, he is the president of all of us. You know, I voted for him twice. I vote for him another time and another time and another time, because I believe in what he's trying to do. But he's not getting any help from anybody.
Well, not everybody agrees with him, Mark.
Then you sit down like he tries to do, and you try to reach some sort of accord. They're not even willing to do that.
Neither is he. Neither is compromising. So I don't think that's going to politics. But neither of them is compromising. They're both as stubborn. He's got his...
He goes so far as to propose legislation that Republicans brought up in the past, and they don't even want to talk about it now.
What legislation is that?
Jobs bills, Felix. In the past, unemployment was always something that was passed unilaterally. Okay, extensions were always granted. Now, they don't even want to talk about it. Under Republican, and I don't want to talk politics, but the bottom line is, under Republican presidents, this stuff was always passed. Why aren't they passing it now? They don't even want to discuss it. I'll tell you why. Because he's a black man. And they resent the fact that a black man is leading America. That's what they resent. You know, I mean, I'm sorry I'm getting angry, but that's just how I feel. The greatest country in the world. And we have people that have exhausted their unemployment. They don't know where their next meal is coming from. They've lost their home. They've lost their jobs. Okay? How much more dependent can you be on the government? But no, Republicans will say that they're lazy. That's what upsets me.
And that is exactly what my point was with that conversation that I had the other night, and that, you know, we do it here. So now you have this family who's exhausted their unemployment, they've lost their homes, they've lost everything, they're living in a shelter. The dad and the mom are both trying to get a job anywhere that they can, and they can't get a job. Why? Because their resume says that they've been out of work for a year.
And how do you explain that? That's right.
Mean that that's a bad person.
That's
you
right.
Know? Or you know, it's just, or you know what? Yeah, we'll hire you, but we're going to pay you $8 an hour. But okay, wait a minute. I've got a master's degree, and you know, I've got all this education, and I'm really good at what I do. Yeah, but you know, based on the fact that you've been out of work for about 2 years now, we'll pay you $8 an hour. Come on.
That's because the employer doesn't. And that's just, you know, the person doing the interviewing doesn't understand that the guy's job was outsourced. They're not. That manufacturing job is not being done in this country anymore. It's being done in Korea. It's being done someplace in China, or it's being done in Mexico. Okay, where people are being paid pennies on the hour, and then you have to retrain these people.
Yep, and in my eyes, it's just another form of prejudice. So,
They're keeping people down. That's exactly what they're doing. And that's why I'm a progressive, and that's why I'm a liberal. Okay? I'll readily admit that some people might be lazy and they'd rather live off the government handout. But at some point, the government handout stops. Then what do? You have to get yourself re-educated. You have to learn something, because it's worse if you're somebody who's in his 50s, because nobody really wants to hire you. If you find somebody who is retrained and in his 30s or his 40s, he can give you 20 to 30 years of work. Somebody who's 50, in his 50s, can give you maximum 10 years worth of work before he has to stop working for one reason or another. What does that person have to do? Does that person have to
tell it to the politicians who are 80 and still working?
Well, can you find a better job than that? How much do they work? You've got Lindsey Graham and John McCain.
Because there are people who are in their 70s and 80s who are going to work every day and collecting that paycheck and refusing to step aside so that someone who is, in need of it, because you're 70-something, 80 years old, you've got Social Security coming in already as well. You probably have some kind of a pension. You want something to keep yourself occupied? Become a volunteer and train those younger people that need to learn what you know. Share your knowledge.
And there are retired executives. I know that in New York they have something like this. There's an organization of retired executives that can volunteer their time to a young entrepreneur who wants to get started, and you act as a mentor for that person. You give them your expertise.
Unfortunately, there's not enough.
Right. Because
I know a gentleman who is in his mid-50s. He is a phenomenal attorney. I mean, the stuff he knows about international trade is amazing to me. He was laid off from his job probably 2 years ago because he worked for a company. He was laid off about 2 years ago, and for the past 2 years, he's been looking to volunteer his time, help people, and nobody wants to go near him. And I'm like, oh my God, why?
I don't know.
It's amazing.
Because they're afraid they may have to pay him too much. That's why.
He's volunteering.
Yeah, I mean, he said. And in addition to that, just the wealth of knowledge that he has is so invaluable. But I think, and this is going to be a really mystic view, I think they don't want him because I think they're afraid he's going to uncover the things that they're doing.
Something that's a strong possibility. Especially if a certain company has been doing something very shady. They don't want this to come to the surface.
Not even shady. If they know they're not competent, they're incompetent, and they're afraid of their incompetence showing up in the workplace. Anyway, listen, we're just about out of time. We get cut off for 2 hours, so we have only 5 minutes left.
Thank you so much for calling in. We always enjoy our conversations with you.
Yep.
And we enjoyed our conversation with Q. He was very well informed, very knowledgeable. Let's face it. I didn't agree with everything he said, but I will defend his right to say whatever he wants to say.
Well, listen, you say whatever you want to say. It goes both ways. It's freedom of speech.
No, I said I welcomed his conversation because it was very enlightening, a nice exchange back and forth.
But it opens the door of communication, which is so where we need to be.
That's true, because if you don't sit down and talk to people, you're never going to get anywhere. And it's easy for us to say, but countries should learn that same lesson. don't stand on ceremony so much. Sit down and discuss things and try to solve the problems of your people, and thus try to solve the problems of the world. Supposedly that's what the UN was set up for, and I don't see that helping much,
Then they can if they really did it, if they walked away from their own personal agendas and actually did it.
Well, the problem with the UN is Russia, China, and the United States.
And the problem with our Congress and the Democrats and Republicans. Same thing. And thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
You too.
All righty. Say hi.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
That was Ann. And we also had Q today calling in. Both interesting callers. We appreciate their contributions to the show. Do we answer the question? I don't think so. We discussed it.
No, it's, like everything else. We started out discussing it. We got off on a little bit of a tangent. Why is there anti-Semitism? Personally, because I think that, like I said, if you look at New York, okay, just New York, you have certain sections in New York where the Hasidim, the very religious, live, and they don't want to have anything to do with the outside communities. They only want to have dealings with their own kind. And for some reason, people see this and they say, well, they don't want to be with us and we don't want to be with them. They eat different food than we eat because it has to be kosher, and they slaughter their animals in a different way. They dress differently. Any one of a number of things that can point, where people can point to the fact that they are different. Okay? What many people don't understand is that the Hasidim and the ultra-Orthodox have nothing to do with somebody like me, because according to them, I'm not Jewish enough. Well, I don't know what it means not to be Jewish enough. From the time I was 8 days old, Felix, I gave my piece of foreskin just like other Jewish little boys did, So, for me, that was enough.
Everybody's giving up their foreskin these days. Jews or not.
Well, how are you going to end the show, Felix? What are you looking for?
That's what I'm thinking.
Or Rev, I should say. After all, you're the rebellious Rev today.
I don't feel very rebellious today. It's a very interesting conversation today, and all right, let's play this. I don't know what it is, but it should be. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Why don't we just say goodbye? Because the show's over.
The show's over, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you for listening.
Have a good weekend, and welcome the fall on Sunday.
And we'll see everybody on Monday. Thank you and good night.